Good man. So we're going to begin our senior tax work-off committee meeting on March 11th, 6 o'clock in the evening. This is being held by Zoom in accordance with Governor Baker's remote meeting emergency powers. All votes will be by roll call. We were just discussing a clerk, and I think we assigned Joe volunteered for the position this time. And we were going to go over some notes. I think we were missing the 7th of January, just to clarify this. The 4th was just put in, so that's fine for February. February 11th was a postponement. The 18th, Jen, we're working on that. And then today, Joe. Thank you, Joe, for volunteering. And thanks everybody for the great presentation and the vote of the City Council last week. That was all very impressive and a great culmination to a great deal of our work. However, for those of you who are ready for more, I think we need to kind of just start to push the ball over the line and set some of the tones and some of the parameters. And I think be there as a backup for the folks who will eventually take over most of the reins, and maybe be almost like a board, kind of envisioning meeting periodically to answer questions, just to kind of see the role going forward, so that there isn't a great administrative burden on the system, and there can be a group of people who can kind of make the policy and the decisions, and of course refer to the mayor whenever necessary. Joe, I see your hand.
Yes. The one thing I've had in the interim, I've had a couple of talks with Brendan, and my understanding is that he sees a subcommittee of the board of directors of the Council on Aging as sort of trying to operationalize this for the Council on Aging, and then basically putting a model together that other departments could then follow. So, I mean, I guess it's too bad he's not here, because, you know, he could speak to that himself, but certainly that seemed to be his thinking, at least the last time I spoke with him during the week. So, you know, I guess we have a new member coming onto the board, which may inject some excitement into the board. But
I see the appointment of Stan, the request for Stan Diamond.
For the Council on Aging?
Yes.
Oh, that wasn't the name that I was thinking of, but if Stan wants to throw his body into the ring, you know, into the mosh pit, you know, we'll be happy to have him.
Yeah. What were you thinking, Joe?
Oh, you mean it was something that you guys had mentioned at the city council meeting, mentioning that Louise Jacobs had been approved as a new member of the board of directors. And so, right. So that's, you know, that's some new blood coming on. Some
additional, yeah, new blood for the.
I shouldn't use that metaphor. It's terrible, but.
Okay.
Okay. But no, so I think Brendan's going to, that with the COVID stuff, because I'm also doing the minutes for his last meeting, and it seems his plate is, or the stove is getting full in terms of burners being used up. So he's got a lot going on here.
At any point, I'm pretty happy to turn over the reins of our role. I think we've served what we initially envisioned, but didn't want to abandon. And it was Brendan who had the discussion that said, "Hey, we'd really like you to kind of be there to answer some of the questions and to kind of represent the city in this, as opposed to being a Council on Aging role." But that's something that I think it can be certainly open for discussion. Jen, I see you nodding your head throughout all of this. You're ready and raring to go with.
Like, oh, someone else wants to do it. No, well, I mean, it makes sense, if the Council on Aging board is willing to put together a subcommittee, it makes a lot of sense because their clients are people who would be eligible to join this program. So they would, they interface with these people, well, not during COVID, but they interface with them, normally, and can explain the program and, kind of facilitate introductions and things of that nature. So it kind of makes sense. I mean, I'd be happy to, like Brendan and I had talked about, like I would review the financial applications and, he would, so obviously we would be involved in the whole thing. But I don't think there's anything wrong with, opening it up to other people helping out and, it'll just help get the word out too,
Right.
And they know the avenues that will reach those people.
Absolutely. Do you think they'd be interested in doing the promotion at this point?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. Like Joe said, it'd be nice if Brendan were here,
We're here tonight
I don't want to speak for him, right? But
it's pivotal.
Yeah.
Well, let's give some thought to the matter and toss it around a little bit, see if there are any specific questions, and see if we can sit down with Brendan about this. That may be the best way to go. Peg, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think the board of the COA probably is in the best position to kind of move this forward. I think there are some tasks that we might be able to help with, but I would look to them for direction. Like as an example, a PSA and coordinating with Easthampton Media. I think that's something that once the board kind of figures out how they want to go about this, I think we need to do a media blitz, basically, to let people know that it's a thing and how people can apply and what that all is going to look like.
JP?
Yes.
Just the one thing that I had, or I guess maybe one area that I'd sort of talked to Brendan about, maybe more so than others, was just setting up the mechanism, or, I mean, it looks like he could have a couple of people working at the Council on Aging. So I said, hey, I will sit down with you and I'll interview you, and basically we'll try to pull together some position descriptions, and get something to the point where we would be comfortable then sharing it with the HR people, just to verify that we're on the right track. And then also to look at, some of the mechanics of how do we go about, looking at the positions that, helping the department heads come up with positions. And then the second piece of that would be to, it's from the applicant's point of view, what advice can we give people in terms of how to write I'm assuming some will know how to write a resume, and some people probably haven't written one in many, many years. So, how can we help them put their best foot forward so that, at some point we'll then go through this matching process of, here we have a vacant position, here we have, any number of applicants, and how do we judge the applicant's skills and sort of try to identify who the best match is.
Right. In terms of the application that we worked with and that we had presented, I think that kind of gave folks an opportunity to describe their experience. So if they didn't have a resume, I think that format would work.
Would still work, yep.
Peg, you had looked at the applications when you made your presentation. It was a little fuzzy sometimes for us to see, a little small.
Yeah, I mean, the application is very free form. You're basically like, these are my skills. And if we don't have it listed on the application, tell us. Do you have any limitations? And, kind of go from there. We don't want to make it too onerous that they have to feel like they have to put a resume together. Yeah. Just tell us about your skill set and how you can use it in the city. And then we match all of that to whatever's open.
If there's a match, and that's great. And if not, well, gosh, maybe this isn't the year for this. I don't know. But that'll be Brendan's function, I think, as a point person,
Right.
to kind of manage that through, maybe through a volunteer as part of the program.
I think for the first year, while it would be ideal if somebody was able to come in and sit in that job and do all that, I think maybe for the first year, hoping to find a volunteer might be a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
It might be.
But I mean, if Brendan can, sort of pull it together and then get a sense for what somebody in that job, what would they have to do? And then he, having done it one year, then he could easily write a position description for somebody to do that in the second year.
So Joe, are you envisioning that the board would create one or two positions within the COA ecosystem so that you guys could kind of build there and
Yes.
then, okay.
Yeah, because I mean, basically what I see us doing is we're sort of formalizing the process, if you will. And once we've formalized it or figured out how it's going to work best for the COA, then we can perhaps take it to other departments or help other department heads come up with similar, so it's really the process that I think we're trying to define a little more so.
And I mean, you could probably build the foundation for the volunteers to actually, run it with a year down the line. But I mean,
Sure,
with the
you're
department
right.
head jobs that whoever volunteers at the COA for this, they get it. Plus they also coordinate some of the other work. That's the job, is coordinating the senior tax work-off program.
Yep.
That sounds cool. I like that idea. So, Chairman, JP. So would it make sense then, like, I'm trying to figure out how we do a handoff. Do we put a pause on us until and unless the COA needs us? Do we help define the next steps? Like, what is our role, do you think, Joe, as things, or Jen, as we start to move to the COA kind of building it up? Like, where does this committee sit?
So I have a quick just interjection. Jay dropped out by a hard crash here, and I'm wondering if by the time he gets his computer up and running, we could close the meeting.
Oh gosh!
Sorry for that interruption.
No.
Do we have somebody else on?
He's another city councilor, Councilor Gomez. He goes to pretty much every
here.
meeting in the city.
Oh, okay, cool.
And
Yeah.
Thumbs up. I love it. I was just going to say, Peg, those are great. Like, I think that's exactly what we need to talk to Brendan about. And you know what I mean? He may already have a feel for how he envisions it, or may have had discussions with, his board about it, that will answer those questions for us. But I mean, it to me, it makes sense. I think it's a great idea to have someone, over time develop it so that the volunteers are running, the program, so to speak. I definitely think that there's the potential for that. And that would, I think people put more into something when they have skin in the game. Mm-hmm. So, I definitely think it would be beneficial to both, the residents and the city.
Yeah.
So it'd be great.
No,
I'll let you go. Go ahead, Joe.
Oh, okay. Peg, I think I like your point, and I think that perhaps the good future role for this committee is to function as in an oversight capacity. I mean, and because we've talked about the higher level process, and to make sure that as we're struggling in the weeds with some of the other stuff, that there are things that we don't overlook. Mm-hmm. Or things that we, temporarily forget, which need to be kept going as well. So
Joe, do you envision, like, maybe as the board makes progress, you and Brendan being representatives of the board to this committee, we could meet periodically. You could do a readout of kind of where you are.
Where we're at, sure.
Engage us if you need to, but basically let us know. And whether that's every month, every 5 weeks, every quarter, I don't know. But, you know, I think that makes sense to keep us in the loop because we're kind of the ones who orchestrated it and we may need to have a role. I don't know. But so what are your thoughts on like the cadence of meetings? I know you guys are probably just starting to talk about it. You know, and I know Jay wants to chair it. Oh, he's back.
Oh, yeah.
See what happens when you go away.
You're the man.
So we're done. We gave everything to Jay. We can now adjourn. You know, but I think maybe, and I don't know, do you think, Joe, you need to like get your sea legs as a board to figure out, yeah.
In terms of, you know, exactly
What's next?
What comes next and the operationalizing it, because I know at the meetings, Brendan has been, you know, spending more and more time talking about this effort to the board members there, and you know, my sense is that, you know, they're getting a little more interested in what's going on, and if we can sort of basically pick up the ball and start running with it in a good way, you know, then it may be you know, a few weeks before that happens, but certainly yeah, in terms of doing the nitty-gritty stuff, I would see that subcommittee of the Council on Aging Board be the ones who are going to be working this.
Yep. So the good news is, and Jen, correct me if I'm wrong, although I think she typed it wrong in her State of the City address last night, the mayor did reference this. Mm-hmm. I think she called it the senior tax. She may have said write-off, but I think she meant work-off. So the fact that it made that leads me to believe she is approving it de facto. So, so I think what I'd like to see actually at some point is maybe coming soon, a banner with a write-up of what the senior tax work-off is. I don't want anyone to get inundated with calls though, so we would put no phone number. But, you know, just kind of something so people know that, you know, we're working on stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't know. So, but I feel like we should take our lead from the COA now, and they bring us in as we need to be brought in. And maybe, Joe, you and Brendan reach out to JP if and whenever we need to reconvene this in the next couple of months to do a readout. You need our help. We need to do something on your behalf, you know, whatever that turns out to be.
Sure, because I know there are, I guess one of the big challenges for Brendan will be trying to figure out among all the people that he's going to have on this subcommittee, who's good at what. I mean, I can do a lot of the nitty-gritty HR type things, but there may be somebody on there. There's Tom Brown retired from the bank, who may have a better head for some of the, you know, the public relations and how do you take a program like this and launch it in terms of the public, and also from the you know, the department heads within the city. I mean, have people been, you know, breaking down your door asking, you know, how do I write a position description, or how do I get people to do this stuff? Or
I think my door's still there. Jen, you're still there.
I've been banging to get out of mine.
I don't know. Is your ceiling coming down, Jen, or
it's going? It's slowly going back up. Actually,
it's going back up. Okay.
We're putting up a new drop ceiling, but we need some of the tracks fixed. What was I going to say? Well, I think
you could use help. I mean, you're
amen. Yes, you might
be as we venture away from the COA. You might be the first stop on building a department head kind of job. You know, like that partnership seems just very good. Yeah, perfect.
Absolutely. And you know what, too? And I mean, I'm just kind of throwing this out there because it came to mind when we've been talking about positions. whether it be, whomever is putting these together, Emily in HR has, canned job descriptions. So, rather than reinvent the wheel, I would, kind of see what you can get in terms of, basic ones, and then just kind of tailor them as you go, if and when the expansion happens,
Right.
I think that makes sense. But, I think the department heads are excited about it and are like, I know I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a great program, especially having experienced it before, but I think just, it's kind of one of those things where they found out about it in the meeting and they were like, yeah, this is a great idea. And then they're like, oh, well, we'll see what happens. And so now that it's going to launch, I think you'll find the interest will kick back up.
I think for this subcommittee, I think it's incumbent that we hit the ground running pretty soon, in terms of making contact with people and keeping the ball rolling.
Yes.
Because I think the one thing that I would be concerned about is if we just sort of, stop dead for 2 weeks to just do whatever. And I think we need to keep the ball rolling. So,
when you say that, Joe, this we needs to keep it going, or the COA we needs to keep it going?
I think in the first thing is the COA thing needs to get up and running.
Right.
And then I guess the second part is you guys as a oversight group need to just, don't let it, fall off, keep it moving and sort of I don't want to say light a fire under Brendan, because I think he's burning as it is. No, he's doing fine. But certainly, keep the, it's sort of like glacial pressure. It's not really dramatic like an earthquake, but it's slow, steady pressure to keep the ball moving. I think that's what we're going to need.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. So I guess, and I apologize for keep bringing this up because I'm really trying to understand the next iteration. So
Right.
We know that the COA has to figure stuff out, like what you want to do. Simultaneous to that, would say a Jen be thinking about a job description for the gaps in her department, or is that a year away? Are we?
No, I think any department head needs to be thinking about, if there's a need within their department to get somebody in there, they need to be thinking about that. And I would think that one of, I don't know, maybe something that I or some others could do would be to, just let's go talk to department heads and start that part of the ball rolling in terms of getting them thinking about, what are some jobs that could be advertised for this coming year, like that.
Yep. And maybe have them start to think about tasks or gaps that they have today, that kind of their wish list of,
Sure.
if I had another body,
Sure.
fill in the blank.
What would I do? Yeah.
Right.
Or if we had another $100,000 fell into your lap, then what would you spend it on? I mean, you guys deal with big money like that, so or should we be talking in millions or?
I think we should not be talking about money at all.
That is correct. We're talking about volunteer services and senior write-offs. This is something very, very just kind of beginning slowly. And I think we need to stay focused.
Yeah, I mean, I really do think the COA needs to do their thing. Jen, I would love it if you could start to frame. So we're touching both sides. We're getting the COA, which is the main ecosystem. And Jen, we start to think about moving across that line.
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of see how that goes. But parallel to this, I feel like we need to be having a public relations kind of a thing. And I don't know what that looks like because I don't do that. So I don't I don't know. And that back to your point, Joe, does someone on the COA have kind of a marketing slant?
Because I know there's a couple of realtor type folks who I think, are looking bigger picture toward some of that stuff.
Yeah.
So they might be in a position, but certainly I think, we have to start working the nuts and bolts within the city, and then also looking from the bigger side. And then, we have to make some fairly quick decisions, I think, because then if we want to go out and try to recruit volunteers for this, they're going to want to know a little bit more in terms of, how is this going to work? But,
right. Right. I mean, I think, what do we have? September? Was that our time frame? September? Before someone, and through what, April of next year, that would be
yes,
the window.
Yeah.
So
for workers to actually be performing the functions.
Right.
Until then, we had the role. So the first step is really to get the job descriptions and to get the department heads thinking about that again. When's the next department head meeting?
Next week or the week after. Well, we were having them at the beginning of COVID, via Zoom, and then it kind of, once things were just kind of status quo for a while, it died off. But now we're going to start having them again, kind of surrounding, reopening and everybody kind of phasing back into the building. So there is one. I don't have my calendar in front of me, but I think it's the week after next.
Maybe I could ask them, JP, maybe you could be a guest speaker at it.
I could do that. Yeah.
I'll check my calendar.
Just for a short, kind of 2 minutes, quick update. Hey, we're here. This is where we're at. This is what we'd like to be to where we're headed, and we're kind of really looking at job descriptions and start to think of the functions.
Yeah.
Sure. I think that would be an appropriate first step in that direction. That really has to start to get nailed down, and then the contacts can happen, and they can ask questions at a future date by phone. Mm-hmm. And we could hopefully begin to gather up some job descriptions. Because I think that drives, once you have that kind of a buy-in and descriptions where you start to be headed, then you can kind of start to really, I think of the PSA and the promotions about, we've really got something to
something concrete.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, the board's kind of, the COA board is kind of setting everything up in terms of the mechanisms.
Structure.
So then that's how I think we proceed for the short term. And I've started to have some conversations with the assessor to kind of start pinning down how we're going to be able to do some billing and payments, and that may have to be tweaked and changed. It looks like, but that's fine.
Have you talked to the new assessor?
The new assessor, yeah.
Okay.
About that, and he's very helpful. And in fact, I asked him to give us a little more thought about this, so he can help to guide us through that part of the process.
Great.
Mm-hmm. And that's a nuts and bolts kind of thing to pull the financial aspect together. Mm-hmm. But really, I think we want to do the jobs in the departments, the public service announcements, and promotion. And I think we've kind of covered it now. The question is, when should we be getting together again? I know I want to have another conversation with Brendan in the very near term to kind of tie down where he sees the board going. Jen?
I just want to let you know, I actually looked at my calendar. Glad I did, because the leadership meeting is 10 a.m. this coming Monday, the 15th.
Can you make that, JP?
Let me check.
I mean, it's up to the mayor. I mean,
yeah,
you'd have to reach out to her and ask her.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I don't know.
Now I think I'm good. 10 a.m.?
Yes.
So I can reach out to the mayor on that. Thank you for that clarification. That's very important. Anything else that we should be focused on at this point?
Do we think we should, this is the last thing and then I will shut up maybe. Do we think there's any value at some point of having a co-COA meeting, board meeting, and our committee meeting just to touch base, or is Joe being on both kind of good enough?
I'm not, yeah, Joe, why don't you give that some thought?
We'll give it, yeah, I mean, certainly Brendan's part of both groups as well. And I think at some point in the not too distant future, it might benefit for him to get that subcommittee in front of you guys where, you know, they can ask any questions and you can tell them what they need to know. Or
Yeah, almost like a handoff meeting, or you know what I mean? Like not handoff, but kind of here, we took it this far, now here, you know.
Transition, yes.
Right, exactly. And then to, you know, then we can communicate, well, which you can for us, but you know, that if they do need input from us or clarification on something that was, you know, that comes up along the way, being a pilot, that's going to happen. You know, then obviously we're here to answer questions if we can, you know.
Sure.
So I'll have a discussion with Brendan about that, if that seems appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I could see us working either way here on that, you know, having that handoff meeting or not. Joe?
This is a naive question from someone who's never worked at the local government level, but how does Brendan, what's the chain of command here in terms of department heads and the mayor and the city council's an advisory board, or did they report to you?
We have no role with the department.
No role, we're done.
No role? Okay.
The council is done, and we have a legislative role with matters that come before us for a vote. So we're kind of working in uncharted waters here in trying to promote a program to take something that wasn't happening and kind of make it
Kickstart it, yeah.
Yeah.
But once like Brendan takes it over, obviously he reports up, I think, to the mayor. I think he does. And there are a couple of roles within City Hall that kind of actually report to City Council, the assessor being one of them.
Okay.
So that's the relationship we have with the assessor and the auditor and the city clerk.
And the city clerk. Yeah, sorry about that. I should have mentioned that. We do have that. That is actually a hiring function.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, at some point it will just be kind of between Brendan and the mayor, the department heads and HR and all that stuff.
You know, and unless the mayor doesn't want to be in the middle of that, feels like, okay, it's great to have a group like this kind of field the questions, try to answer everything that they can on behalf of the city. And if it really needs to be kicked upstairs at that point, fine. And I think we'd all be willing to serve that role if that were necessary. It may very well be that it's not necessary.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So should we call this, like, this committee kind of on pause until more happens at the board level?
I think so.
Okay.
If everybody's comfortable with that, I could convene a meeting if any one of you, or if Brendan gives us a call and asks for it.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Sure. And certainly if you know, because I mean, I've talked to Brendan about this on a couple of different occasions, but if maybe we just have a smaller group meeting or something, or just informally to talk about how he sees this working, because I've given you my best, estimates on how we could proceed, but I'm not trying to jump in and take over his role here.
Sure, he'd be happy if you did.
I was thinking the same thing.
I think you're doing a good job, Joe. Man.
Oh, gosh.
You want to apply.
Maybe if somebody writes a volunteer position for me, I'll see if I can sneak myself in the door.
Yeah. Get a tax write-off, as the mayor calls it.
That sounds good. Anything else?
Not my dog.
All right.
Not mine either.
Sounds good. That being said, I would be happy to entertain a motion at this point.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
Joe? Yes. You said
Yes.
okay. Yeah, you okay?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
JPI, Jen?
Yes.
Counselor Gomez, we see you in Bebo. You can't vote. That's fine.
Yes.
Thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to you later
All
and
right.
touch base soon. Take care.
Bye, guys.
JP,
Bye-bye.